Hey Lisa, how are you?
Good. Thank you for making it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad I could make it tonight.
Me too. It's great to see a familiar face. There's
Me
Jalen
too.
too. You
Going on, buddy?
Hey Jalen.
What's going on?
Hi, Mindy. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Brian. I
Mindy,
see
yes.
familiar faces.
Yes, indeed. Jana's here. Fernando. Hello, Fernando.
Hi,
And
Ryan.
Molly, Ryan, it's great to see you again. So,
Yes.
as you come into the room, we'll do what we normally do. Just take a moment, share where you're located at the moment, so your hometown or where you're currently calling in from, and then I'll just present a quick question for you to kind of kick things off. So, of course, our conversation today is about standing out. So, just take a moment and share. Do you think that you are more of a doer or a thinker? You just want to share in the comments. A doer or a thinker, or both. Balance of both.
Can you be
And
both?
I think it's both. Yeah, see, Fernando said both. That's right. Yeah, I can both. All right, see, got some both in there. A few more. Karen said both as well. Jacqueline's calling in from Hilton Head. Jacqueline, it's great to see you again. Jacqueline also said that she likes to give things thorough consideration before doing. I can understand that, definitely. And Mindy, hi Mindy, welcome back. So Mindy's calling in from Chicago. She's a thinker first and then a doer. Molly, we have Molly with us. Hi Molly. And Molly says both. And Jason also said he agrees with both. And hello from Pittsburgh. And we've got Lucas. Lucas also said he's a thinker, and I'm a thinker before I do my actions. And we have Bella. Hi, Bella. Bella is calling in from Rosen College Apartments. So, yay, shout out to Rosen. And she is from Tampa, Florida. She's both as well. And then we've got Jana, and then we'll go ahead and get started here. Jana says she's a doer, but I think we do, and then think and adjust to make changes and continue to move forward. And she is calling in from North Carolina. And Dana. Hi, Dana. Dana says she's definitely a thinker, sometimes an overthinker as well. I can relate to that. I understand. So, well, everyone, welcome. We're excited to have you with us for the 5th installment of our Professionals Care series. We are very honored to actually have one of our guest speakers, our last guest speaker, to return to continue some dialogue with us. So it's great to see some new faces with us today. If you did not attend our last session, do not fear, because the message you're going to hear today can relate to wherever you are in life. So we will highlight some things from our past session, our previous session, but then also talk about some new concepts as well. If you're unfamiliar to our webinars, the first thing I like to mention is to go into our housekeeping items. First off, we do encourage participation. We wanted to try to do something a little different today. We really want this conversation to really be open and very conversational. So we're still going to stick with our same format of proposing and asking questions. So if you do have a question that you would like to present, what we're going to ask is that you type that question in the chat, the general chat where you've been putting all of your communications so far. One of our co-hosts here will actually pick up on that question, and then they will send you a direct message on Zoom asking if you're interested in coming on camera and asking your question in front of the entire group. You can say yes or no. If you choose to do that, we're going to ask that you unmute your camera and your audio, and then we're going to turn the floor over to you. If you say no, that's totally okay too. I will ask, or one of us will ask your question on your behalf. So we wanted you to know that as well. The other thing too, again, we said conversational, just as we start the dialogue in the beginning, just make sure that you do keep your audio on mute. You can leave your camera on, but just out of the respect of everyone who's talking, and then your peers in the room, just make sure that you keep your audio on mute until it's your opportunity or your time to talk. With that, I wanted to take a moment to introduce our guest speaker with us today. It is John Walsh, and John is the president and CEO of the Standout Experience. So let's all say hello and give a big warm welcome to John Walsh.
Hello, hello. See,
John, how are you?
everybody's on mute, so I couldn't hear any
Yeah,
clapping,
I
but I
know.
can see it.
Actually, you know
So,
what? In just a moment here, I'm going to ask that everyone, not yet, but I'm going to, in just a moment when I tell you to do so, just turn your or unmute your audio. But John, so first off, just if you could, to begin, just tell us a little about yourself, because there are some people who attended our last session and they're familiar with who you are. But for our new participants, if you could just take a moment and introduce yourself.
I will. I'll actually reintroduce myself because let's see, when we talked last, it was a month ago. Is that about right? A little over a month ago or so. And so I am a different person a month from now, partially because of my 10-year resume that hopefully you guys all did, but I am literally a different person, meaning that when I last talked to you, I was the senior vice president of finance and strategy for the Madison Square Garden Company up in New York. I had worked 18 years previously with Disney in various executive roles. And I'd done a lot of work with students, young professionals, executives, and others just to kind of prep them for life and careers. And what's interesting is over the last month, and we had a lot of conversations, by the way, about 10-year resumes and how do you stand out and all that kind of stuff. And one of them was about taking risks. And I went through my whole career before. I won't do that again. But here's what I'll tell you. As my career journey has continued, in the last month, I have since left Madison Square Garden. I have launched my company, Standout X. It's a limited liability company here in Florida. We're going to do training, development, coaching, certification programs, the whole thing for mostly for students and young professionals. But as we'll go through here, you'll see that it's for anybody, and you'll see why. I'm also an author, and I can say now, as of an hour ago, I'm a best-selling author. My book dropped on Amazon today, and in the first day, it hit #1 in 3 categories. So it's pretty exciting news. Jalen's doing the happy dance. It's
Yes.
great. I love it.
This is the moment where I say, everyone, if you can, unmute your audio, because honestly, this is well deserved. So congratulations, John.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My
So
God.
so the good news is if I can do it, every one of you can do it. So when we talk about your 10-year resume and the things we're going to talk about tonight, just keep in mind just that, right? Is that, no matter where you are, if you feel stuck, if you're looking for a career change, if, you've got bigger plans, it's all coming, and we'll talk about how to get there. So I am the president and CEO of my company. I actually hired my first employee this week as well. And the book is out there, and training programs are going to start launching in October. You'll see social media everywhere. The podcast comes out next month. It's going to be great. I'm pretty excited about it. So.
Well, John, I can definitely say on behalf of our group, and I'm sure all of our participants, congratulations to you, and definitely well-deserved. And we hope that the takeaway from tonight will greatly serve you and greatly serve many of our participants to really encourage them to stand out and find ways and new ways and creative ways to stand out and take those risks as well that sometimes will lead you to stand out amongst the pack. So, John, thank you again for being with us. So what we'll actually start off, what I really wanted to talk about is just to briefly go into your book. And then I'm going to really turn it over to you just to talk some more about the purpose of standing out. So I really wanted to ask, for those individuals who did not attend our last session, I started off by asking you the last time, what does it mean to stand out? So if you would just take a moment, John, when you think about that phrase stand out, what does it mean to you?
In my opinion, humble opinion, standing out is when you are the one when it matters most. right? And so that might be when you're going for that job or the promotion, or you really want to have an impact on other people. Standing out is, I think someone said, you're memorable. And I think that's absolutely a good way to think about it. And there's times we all want to stand out. And so to me, standing out is really people that are doing incredible things for the benefit of other people. And if you are doing amazing things with the talents, the gifts, and all the hard work that you've put in, and you're, making the world better, you're making people's lives better, you're entertaining people like no one else can, you're, giving value to people that need help or whatever else, I think that's standing out.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So the last time we were together as well, we talked, and you briefly highlighted it at the beginning of the session too, the 10-year resume. Um, when we think about that 10-year resume, why do you think it's so important to begin looking at your future? So for example, I think that whenever we create a resume, oftentimes we think about it's what we've done in the past, and it's our way of kind of selling ourselves when we go into the interview or to that employer. But why do you think it's important to look to the future when you're creating this resume as well?
There's a couple things that I'll say to that. One is that, and I talked about this a little bit last time, beyond just Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Safety, all that kind of stuff. We have three core human needs, and it's clarity is one, simplicity and certainty. And if you think about your career and life, if you can get clear on where you're going to go and what you're doing and who you are and why, if you simplify a very complicated life around you and you do the things that generate and create enough certainty, things are going to happen for you. And so I think that's really, really important. Are those three things? And the book that I wrote really is broken down into those three sections. And I think the 10-year resume. Last time we talked about standing out. The way to stand out, one of the ways to stand out is to be different. Right. I think we talked about you can't be doing the same thing that everybody else is doing and expect to stand out because you do it better or you work harder or whatever else. That's all what we call table stakes. Everybody's doing that. And by the way, you as an employee or you as a leader of your team, that's the basic expectation, isn't it? That you're going to work hard. You're going to be a team player. You're going to take on tough projects. Well, that's what we hired you for in the first place. So the people that stand out are the ones that really do something above and beyond. And it starts with being different. And I think the 10-year resume is super important because I would say, and I've done a lot of interviewing with a lot of people, I would say that roughly 2% of the population knows where they're going, 2%. Because, and if anyone tried this exercise, I'll bet you it was really, really hard, and you can understand why, right? So imagine two U's. The first U is you graduated from college, you got a job, you may be working in the job 5, 10, 15 years, you get up every day, you're going into but what's my purpose? Does my job have meaning? Where am I going? All that. I mean, the stress and everything else is complicated. The 10-year resume, though, gives you start thinking about it. Brandon asked that question before, who's a thinker and who's a doer? And everyone says, I'm a thinker before I'm a doer. But are you really thinking? Are you really thinking about the right things? Everyone's thinking, everyone's learning, everyone's doing on their job. But are you really thinking about the right things? The 10-year resume forces you to do this. It forces you to pick a future, to determine your success. I think one of the things I'm going to ask you is, and I'd love to hear you guys tell me yours, but I would love for you to define success for me, for you, right? Because I think if you know what your success is, and if you know what that means, in order to get there, you have to know where you are and who you are, and then you have to build the roadmap to get from one place to the other. If you don't know what success looks like to you, if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, and you're not really sure who you are, where you're going, it's really difficult. And no wonder people are feeling like unsatisfied in their jobs, or they need help with figuring out their purpose, and it's because they haven't defined it themselves. The 10-year resume, right or wrong, done or not done, you at least thought about your future and where you are and what do you need to do to get there. And that puts you in an elite company with the population.
So I wanted to ask, actually, from our participants, you can either type in the chat, if you want to just raise your hand as well. You should have a raise hand function. I'm curious to see how many people who participated in our last session actually has taken that opportunity to complete or do that 10-year resume. I know a few people have. Actually, I've had a couple of participants who reached out to say that they've done theirs. Lisa mentioned that
I
she's
saw
done
Lisa.
hers.
Lisa's
Yeah,
like raising her
the
hands.
thumbs up.
I think Lisa's
I
doing two hands. She's like, woo,
Yeah,
woo, I did it. Woo, woo.
And we've got Whitney has completed hers as well. Jalen has one. I know Ryan and Allie, who both participated in our sessions previously, have completed their own too. But I think one of the common things that I heard from some people was where to begin. And one of the most difficult and most challenging things to do with that 10-year resume was to find a starting point. So I wanted to ask you, where do you begin? If you have, if you look at the message that you get, and even looking at your own story and your path, where do you begin when you're starting to plot and try to build that path to your future?
It's really easy. It's easier than you think. The challenge is most people think about where they are right now and they're like, okay, what do I do? The way to do it is you always start at the end. And I mean, you might have to go to the very end, but you always start with the end in mind. And I don't know if anybody plays chess or tennis or whatever else, but master chess players, they always work backwards. They know how they're going to end. I mean, I see Fernando shaking his head. I think you played chess. You know chess, right? Enough to know that you think you start almost like, how are you going to win the game? And then you back all the way into the moves to start. And the 10-year resume is the exact same thing. And you go to the very end first. And I'm not saying that you go to the very end and say, I'm going to be the president of this company and this is what I'm going to do. What I'm saying is your end it could be a couple things. And two of the most impactful are this. If you were to sit down and you were to write your own eulogy, if you were to write your own, what people are going to say about you when all is said and done, what would they write about? And then you start backing in from there. Then you say, okay, so how do I accomplish that? Okay, well then what kind of, what does that look like for me? And you start working your way backwards. The other way to do it is to sort of do a blend of what you're good at and what you love to do right now, but marry that with the lifestyle that you want to live when you look at 30 years out, 20 years out. And if you build your lifestyle, and that means how much time do you want at home versus not? Do you like to travel? Do you not? Do you like to work on a team? Do you not? The more questions you can answer that is your life, then it's much easier to build a job that's within that life. Where people get really hung up is, I've got to pick a job. And right from the start, you're in stress mode because you haven't defined all the other things that are going to fit around that job. And you're hoping, because your brain and your heart knows whether it's family, the things you like to do, the hobbies, the money you want to have, all that kind of stuff, you know that all that is going to have to fit around whatever job you pick. And the minute you start picking a job, you've already lost the game. So that's what I would do, is always start at the end and then you work backwards.
It's interesting. When I asked the question about the 10-year resume earlier, Mindy actually said that she's wanted to, or she wanted to do a resume, but she was afraid to do it. So Mindy, I wanted to bring you on for just a moment, if you're okay with speaking with the group. and kind of give us kind of your thought process and insight. And I wanted to give you an opportunity maybe to ask John some questions as well.
Sure. It feels a little bit vulnerable to say this, especially to all of you. But at this point in my life, my last child has just left home. For the first time since I got married, really, I can live anywhere, I can go anywhere, I can do anything. I'm not limited to where I'm raising my kids or the school system or whatnot. So, so I have had this dream in my heart since college, and I put it aside out of my own choice to, you know, be with my family and raise my kids and support my husband as the breadwinner, you know, in our family. And so here I am at this moment, kind of a crossroads when I feel like I could do anything. And I'm at the point of, do I go for that dream that I have had in my heart since I was in college? Or is it, number one, is it too late? Did I miss the boat? You know, that's a kind of a fear I have. And what if I can't attain it? What if I've looked to that all my life as my dream and my ideal, and at this point I can't attain it? The disappointment, you know, I don't know. It's almost one of those, it's, if I put it on paper, it makes it more real. And I think that's why I'm having a hard time doing that 10-year resume. I know what I want, but I'm afraid to put it down because really, I guess I'm afraid it's not going to happen.
So let me talk about fear real quick. We as humans have a fear. There are 4 fears. We're afraid, and first of all, you have to make sure, is it truly fear or is it the unknown? But let's assume it's fear, Mindy, right now. There are 4 fears that we have. The first is the fear of success. If I actually do this, what does my life look like? Who won't be in my life anymore? Will I be able to sustain that success? So there's fear of success. There's fear of failure. I might get there and not be good at it. There's fear of process, which means the work that it's going to take to actually get there and do it, get to that end point. Can I do it? Will I, you know, do it for the long haul, everything else. And the last is, and probably the most important, is fear of judgment. What are people going to say about me? What are people going to think about me? So I think first thing you need to do, Mindy, is say, what are you afraid of? What fear is it? Because here's one thing I will tell you. There's a lot of things I'll tell you. One, it's never too late. I mean, you and I could sit down, we could do a Google search, and you'd be surprised how many thousands and thousands and thousands of people became famous, hit their stride, did everything else at a point that was way later than we all expect it should be, right? The other thing is that one of the number one things that people say, one of the number one when they get to the end of their life, is they have regrets. And if you don't do what it is that you know you're supposed to do or you really want to do, then that the fear of regret should be stronger than the fear of your success or failure or whatever else. And one of 2 things are going to happen. It's either the unknown of the job that I'm going to pick or the whatever it is, that dream that I'm going to pick, or it's the unknown of, okay, once I've picked it, how do I do it? And it is so much easier, and it's so much more fulfilling, and it's so much more rewarding to finally plant your stake in the ground and say, this is what I'm going to do. Now let me go tackle the fear of how do I get from point A to point B? Because at that point, you know what it is. Then it's like some of the things, these are some of the questions I was going to ask you guys anyways, when you look at your 10-year resume is, you know, who do you need to become to be that person? What type of skills do you need to acquire? What help do you need? Why are you doing it? It becomes so much easier to answer those questions than Where do I want to live? What type of job do I want? What position is it going to be? How much money? It makes it so much harder to do it from that approach. So if you have, I mean, look, I just left a comfy job at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I think I told you guys my story before, but I was homeless in high school, and I flunked out of college so many times. I didn't start my career until I was in my 30s, and for a kid who was homeless in high school to walk away from making hundreds of thousands of dollars at MSG in my 50s right now, I know I don't look like I'm in my 50s, but I am, to leave my job with a wife and 3 kids to go write this book, launch this book, start this company. How is it any different than you? And I will tell you, because I know this 100%, and there's no one that can convince me otherwise, that you and every person on this call has at least one thing that you do way better than I do. Way better. You have a talent, a skill, a something. And if I can do what I'm doing, by damn, you can do what you're going to do. You just need to say, what is my fear? Why is it? Plant the stake in the ground. Because look, let's say you're wrong. Let's say you do it. And I'm sorry, this is a long answer, but maybe this relates to some people. But let's say you do it. Let's say you pick that stake in the ground. You get all excited, get all jazzed up. You know, you'll put all the plans around yourself, like how much money do I have to have set aside? How much am I going to invest in the business? At what point do I have the off ramp to call it? All that kind of stuff. You're not gonna be right. You're not gonna be right. You're gonna pivot as you go, right? The best laid plans never actually happen, but you're at least starting to walk that path, and then you'll know, oh, I was wrong about that skill I need to get. I actually need to get this one. That's okay. You're still moving forward along that path. Oh, I don't need this coach to help me. I need this person over here to help me. Oh, it's not that company. It's actually this company, or whatever else it is. And I'll tell you, you're smart, and everyone else is here smart. It's much easier to pick that dream and figure out how to monetize it than it is to try to just figure out the dream in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, that resonated with me, especially thinking of it as it's a discovery along the way. I tend to feel like I need to have the whole thing planned out and know what I need and know, step 1 through 10 to make it happen. But to discover things along the way and make small changes and maybe big changes, it never occurred to me that would be something that would be beneficial and that would be a good part of my journey. So
Let me give you guys all something that I bet you've never thought about, and hopefully, I know we're not really going. You're not like picking up your 10-year resume. We're not like going through it right now, and hopefully, this information is super helpful. But let me share with you something about jobs, and I want you to think about the jobs that you have on your 10-year resume, the roles or jobs, whatever you want to call it, and I also want you to think about your current job, okay, or the job, Jalen, if the job you're getting ready to go into out of school or whatever else. So let me tell you about jobs. There are 5 types of jobs in this world. There's 5, okay? And every job fits into one of these 5. The first one is, and I write about this in my book, it's called the Ikigai job. It is the ultimate job. And in case you don't know, Ikigai is the reason for meaning. It's the combination of 4 things. It's what are you good at? What do you love to do? What does the world or your company or whatever need? And what are they willing to pay for it? And if you can find the intersection of those 4 things, imagine a job that you love to do, you're really good at it, someone else benefit from it, and you get paid for it, you've hit your Ikigai. Okay, that's number 1. I assume that most people aren't there. That's like the pinnacle. The second job is called the stepping stone. It's the job that you're supposed to be in only for a short period of time because you're supposed to acquire a certain skill. You're supposed to acquire a certain network. You're supposed to, gain some knowledge or something that is a stepping stone to the next job. The problem is many people go into a stepping stone job and they call it a career. And that's why they feel stuck and they feel like, nothing. So you got to understand there's some jobs that are only supposed to be there. And it might be, by the way, it might be a stepping company. Okay. It might be that you're working for a company. You're only supposed to be there for a couple years because you're supposed to go on and do another thing. So think about the stepping stone as number two. The third one is, and Mindy, this is what we were just talking about, it's called the experiment. There's a job, there's a company, or there's an industry that you're supposed to only go and do just to experiment to see whether or not you like it or not. Are you good at it or not? Is there a long-term opportunity here or not? It's harder for some folks that are later in their life to think about, oh my goodness, so you're going to, like if you're in your 20s, you're just coming out of college, Jalen, or whatever else, it's much easier to experiment. You should probably work 3 or 4 jobs in your first 10 years, right? Because you should be experimenting different things. It's a little bit harder for us, right? But you can still do it if you do it smartly. So there's the experiment. The fourth one is called the stability play. This is a job that when your job is not the number one thing, it doesn't define who you are. That is when other things are more important, but you need that stable job to do that other thing. So and there's a good and a bad on the stability play. There's the bad, which means you just hate your job. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be in that. But there's a good stability play, which is I'm not looking to get ahead. I'm not trying to, break the world or bend the universe or whatever Steve Jobs called it. It's my job because my family, my church, my hobby, my side gig. If like what I did with my job in my company and my book is while I was working at Disney and MSG, I did this on the side. And so that Disney and MSG was really just to fund, give me knowledge and prepare me for this. So there's the stability play, which is you're doing it for another reason and it's okay to stay in that job. The last one, the fifth one, is called what I call the wrong choice. That's the job you're not supposed to be in, but you're in it for whatever reason. Your family told you to do it. You think you should do it. Society's pushing you to do it. You somehow didn't take control of your life and you just sort of ended in that and it's hard to get out. And people will stay in the wrong choice for a long time and that their career, that's why they're so unhappy. So I think you have to look at your job, your current job, and the jobs on your resume with the lens of those 5, because you're trying to get to number 1. You're trying to get to that job, that ikigai job. You're trying to get there. And so then the jobs on your 10-year resume, the job that you're in now, is it a stepping stone job? Is it an experiment job? Is this my stability play because I need to go get my MBA or whatever to prep me for that longer term play? Or am I just on the wrong path? And I think if you look at your 10-year resume, you look at your current job from that perspective, I think you have, I don't know, I think it's a huge help for people to think about it from that perspective.
Thank you so much. Good stuff.
Yeah, and Mindy, I just wanted to thank you, for being vulnerable and putting yourself out there to share that. That's pretty powerful. So, just listening to everything you said, I will tell you personally moved me, but yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate that.
When you're vulnerable, better things come your way.
Exactly.
Plain and simple, because everybody, if you're not vulnerable with people, they assume everything's good and they assume you don't need help. You got your thing going on and whatever else. But if you're vulnerable, people want to help you. If you're vulnerable, then it's easier to admit the thing that you're trying not to admit. So being vulnerable is actually a real sign of strength.
Very true. Very true. John, I wanted to take a moment too, because I also want to give you an opportunity to kind of continue to ask these questions of the group. I wanted to take a moment and see if any of our participants who have completed the 10-year resume would like to just take a moment, talk about that experience, what they learned from it, What did that whole process look like for them? So would anyone be willing to share? I see
All right.
Whitney.
I
There we
will
go.
I will happily share my experience. Mindy, first I want to say thank you, because I think that's really tough to admit fears. And I felt similarly because I think it was Jason, you had mentioned like other people's support in the chat. And yeah, like I think that was my biggest fear, was I'm asking a lot of equally the people around me. And so that's something that I struggled with doing it. But I have to tell you, maybe it's my washed up collegiate athletic career. I told myself I need that goal in life, right? Like I need something to help. And much like all of us, I work in the travel industry and life's a little crazy. And so I sat down and I started actually exploring. I think I told John and Brandon, like through LinkedIn, I found my dream people. I found who they were and what they were doing. And I kind of started exploring, like, these were my dream jobs that I've, been looking forward to, and how did they get there? And I remember I'll tell you guys a little story about it. I sent it to Brandon, and I had that moment of fear, John, that I texted Brandon right after. And I was like, I know it's a little aggressive, but please don't judge me. It's a little aggressive. And Brandon was really supportive and did not tell me, thank you, Brandon, that it wasn't asking too much. But what I realized through this was it gave me that roadmap. And like you said, Mindy, it gave me like that, this is where I want to be. And so what are the things I need to do to achieve those things? What do I need to get off my plate? Like I have a 3-year-old and I just finished my MBA. What can I get off my plate to achieve the things that I want? And I think that's been my biggest eye-opening experience, is how many things I was doing that weren't adding any value to getting me to where I wanted to go. So I really loved the activity. I know that there was a lot of challenge though in trying to figure out those in-between steps. And I meticulously went through. So John, I would love to know tips you have for the in-between steps, because I know for me, it was like, well, do I put 2 years to this? Do I put 3 years? And for someone like me, I need those mini goals, right? Like I need that stepping stone, that ladder to look at. And then also, John, I have another question for you. So my job went from being a stepping stone job to almost being a stability play, because in times like this, like in crisis like this, my job has changed so much. I mean, we basically laid off my entire team, and I do everything now from A to Z. And so how do you handle situations like that, where I'm not being fulfilled and I know it's not helping me achieve my goal, but at the same time, the situation that we're in is really changed. So I'd love your perspective on that.
I would love for you to also share because you and I talked beforehand, the rest of your story when you shared your 10-year resume with some other people, some of the comments that you got. It
was crazy, the support I got. So I think, Jason, to your comment, I actually shared it with the people I was the most concerned wouldn't like it or wouldn't support me on it. And I did the activity of actually removing my name from it and handing it over as though it was somebody else's resume. And they were all really impressed. And then I sent it to a few people, including some of my family members. It's like, hey, this is just who I am and who I want to be. And they were blown away. I mean, I worked with a group that were VPs for automotive companies, and they were saying, this is exactly what people need to be doing. You need to know where you're going. They were asking me how often I'm going to revise it. Am I going to make it a chore and revisit it too much? Because you don't want to do that. And knowing that this is a breathing document. And I was overwhelmed with the support I got from people. And what everybody's comment was, John, and I think it was the most interesting, is not a single person critiqued me on any of it, because their response was just overwhelmingly impressed that I did it, one, and then two, this is your journey. They kept telling me, like, this is your journey. This is who you are and who you're going to be. So if this works for you, then this works for you. If you hit a point and it's not working for you, I hope you revisit it and figure out what's next. And it really, I mean, I can tell you, like, it gives me chills to get to share this experience with you guys because it really did define my career. And I am not fresh out of college, so I equally am in a position where, you know, it's not easy. I have commitments and I have other things, but I also have dreams and goals like you, Mindy, and I would love to achieve those someday. So.
So that's beautiful. So I'll answer your question, but let me first say here's one of the reasons why it's important to do it. And again, it could be wrong. That's fine. Um, is you're defining something, and if you're a young professional or if you're not, if you don't define it, people want to help. And what happens is people will try to define it for you because they think they know you. They really do want the best for you. So they tell you, you should do this job or you should do that because you haven't defined it. But the minute you actually define the thing that you want, it's amazing how many people say, oh, that's what you're doing. Okay, go talk to this person. I think you should. It like compounds itself and the help that you get there. So that's what's really important. Your question about the type of job is I answer it in a couple different ways. One is that it's not that simple where the jobs fit into one of those five, right? There could be jobs that fit into both. You could be in a stability play that's also a stepping stone, right? Because it's how you treat the job. If you in every job you can learn, you can grow, you can push yourself. You know, it's when you get into like a stability play and you just kind of go in and you're like, I'm not going to push myself to be better. I'm not going to try to do more. And it becomes that comfortable stability play. But you could be in a stability play job because there's something else more important and still use it as a stepping stone. Try new things, try different leadership examples, ways of being, try different skill sets, right? You're probably in a safe place there. So if you make a mistake or two, it's probably okay. So I would treat it a little bit differently. And the fact that you recognize what the job is and it could change is the beauty of it because you know how to approach that job and why you're doing it. People get in trouble when they're in a stability play. They think they're in a stability play, but they don't realize that they're actually in a stepping stone job. And I think that's the biggest thing. So if you understand what you're doing and why, what the job is, you extract the value that you can get out of that job in one of those categories, you'll be much better off. So I think that's how I think about it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's very, you know, obviously the circumstances right now are very unique, but I think maybe that will help me to walk in maybe tomorrow or sit back here in the same spot tomorrow and, you know, maybe find another way I can work towards that goal with the same job.
Yeah, and so I think one of the reasons why, Mindy, you might have felt this way too, is one of the reasons why people don't do this exercise is that it feels very prescriptive. It feels like this is the path. And like you said, life changes very frequently. And so, wait a minute, if I define this path, then aren't I only on this path? And then what happens if I get pregnant or whatever, I lose my job or I get off track or whatever else? And what people don't realize is it's much worse to do that. Imagine not knowing where you're going and then that same life event or whatever happens to you. Now you're really messed up because now it's just like there's all, but at least if you know what your path is, and let's say, Mindy, you choose your path and you have to move to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Well, at least you know, okay, well, now a circumstance change. I might have to pivot a little bit on that path, but I can still stay on that path. It might look a little bit differently. It's no different than a plane that takes off from New York and goes to LA. Right, there's waypoints along the way, but as they're flying that plane, and my brother-in-law is a pilot, so he tells me this all the time, but when he fly the plane, as they're going, storms come in, there's other aircraft that come, things happen, and they change their waypoints and they get there a different way, but they end up getting to the same place by following the same general path. And so your career and your life will do the same thing if you pick it, and you actually have more freedom when you pick it and you pivot off of it a little bit than if you say, I'm just not going to do it, and who knows where you're going to go, because then the lack of freedom is stuck.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that's a common theme, especially in your book. And when you talk about that early on too, is the concept of you view your life like a game or two, you view it like a story as well. And something that resonated with me very early on in your book was, uh, with your story, uh, you choose what you can do at some point. You can either, if you delete a portion, you can revise it, you can rewrite it. So I think it goes back to what you said earlier too, which is, kind of the hesitation of doing this activity for some is we almost look at it as being prescriptive at that point where it's, what, we're writing this down. Okay, this is the path that we need to take. So yeah, I think that's perfect.
And just remember the other thing, when you do your 10-year resume, um, it's a great exercise, but it's also a very unfair exercise, because for to ask anyone to pick that one job at that one point in time with that one company is a near impossible ask, right? So, but what you do though is you do pick it, but you have the understanding that there's a degree of freedom around that. So if you pick, and Jalen, I'm going to use you if that's an example, right? So Jalen wants to, like, can I share Jalen? All right. In 10 years, he's going to be and I'm saying I didn't say he wants to be, I'm saying he's going to be. He's going to be the GM of a resort in Texas, right? In 10 years. Okay. So that's his pinpoint. He did it beautifully. He's got the time, the place, the position, the job descriptions. I mean, it looks like a resume of someone that is actually in that role. The beauty of that for Jalen is he's not actually saying, I'm going to be the GM at this resort in Galveston, Texas at this time. What he's saying, if that happens, that's great. But what he's actually saying, and it might be that Jalen, you have family down there and there's a reason you want to be exactly at that spot. But you probably have some degrees of freedom to say it might be a GM of a different resort somewhere else in Texas or in the Southwest, or it might be, leading a large team that, manages hotels. Like he's at least picked something of the literally millions and millions of jobs that Jalen could go do. He's narrowed it down to something that's manageable and is targeted, but it's not so precise that he has to do that job at that time. And so hopefully, Jalen, you feel that you've got at least, hey, I can get up in the morning, I'm going to walk out the door and I know where I'm walking to, right? And it might change. You might get 2 years in, 3 years in and realize, oh my gosh, what have I done? This is not what I want to do. That's okay. Because then what you could do is look at the job and say, well, what was it about being a GM in Texas that I really liked? Oh, I got it. I want to be in a warm weather area. I want to be leading a team. I want to do a job that actually has an impact, a guest service impact on other people. I want to be able to problem solve. And if you're a GM of a hotel or a resort, that's what you're doing. You're problem solving, 6 of the 8 hours of the day. So now he at least knows, oh, that's the kind of job I want. And now he can go say, it might not be a GM in Galveston for that resort. It might be, as long as it fits those descriptors, right? Whatever it is, he's at least defined what that success is a little bit more. I hope that makes sense when you think about your resume.
Yeah, no, it definitely, you hit it on the money for sure. For me personally, I think it just gives me a general idea of where I would be essentially, definitely in that area, and then also the large amount of property as well. So the type of property. So I don't see myself like in a hotel, but then again, I'm gonna go where the waves go. I'm gonna kind of go with the flow and make sure that it's aligned with my goals. But I kind of just wanted to make an outline, okay, a general aspect of this area. I know I'm going to be in operations. I know it's going to be a general manager. That way I'm not limited to just one department. I want to be able to inspire, train, and develop all departments and be able to be accountable for more than just one department. That way there's no limits with it.
Yep.
So you kind of.
And the beauty of that, and look, I always do, I tell people to do the 10-year resume because I think it's the easiest thing, particularly as people are polishing off their resumes right now to look for other jobs or be ready for another job. It's the easiest thing to do. Um, the thing about the 10-year resume, it could be just a goal planning exercise. It could be a vision statement, whatever you want to do, some forward thinking, something. I like the resume because it's very goal specific, targeted, whatever else. Here's the other thing. Not only does it tell you what to do, it tells you what not to do. So Jalen, really clear, if something comes out of left field and an opportunity comes your way or you get approached or whatever else, you are much more likely to not stress over, do I do it or not? Because you know whether that's going to fit in your roadmap or not.
Yeah, no, that speaks volume to me because before COVID, I was battling between a revenue management internship, a management development program, and a Chick-fil-A program. So like I was all over the place, and this kind of helped align the goals with a vision and a path.
But that's where, so the question earlier, Brandon, that you asked was like, where do you start, right? And I think one of the reasons is one of the things that you start at the end is, Jalen, I can answer your question right now, which is if you tell me that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, leadership is the most important thing to you, right? You want to lead, you want to manage people, you want to develop people, then you know you should be taking the Chick-fil-A job because that's what Chick-fil-A does, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're about customer service and they're about developing people.
Yeah.
If, however, you want to ultimately be the CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer, you want to drive value, direct strategic value, and it's less about managing people and grooming people and growing people and being a leader, it's more about driving business results, then you know to take the revenue management job.
Yeah.
Right? So defining what that is in an outer year helps so much with what you should be doing right now.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I just wanted to take a quick moment. The current time is 7:25. Our sessions normally run for 1 hour. We understand if you could only be here for an hour. However, we wanted to mention that we're going to add some bonus time onto the session. So we would like to continue the conversation for another 30 minutes at least until 8 p.m. So you are welcome to stay on. We would love for you to continue to join us, and as we continue this dialogue, if you need to step off at this time, we completely understand that as well, but we wanted to let you know that if you would like to continue this conversation, we're going to keep going until 8 o'clock.
And the only thing I'll add real quick in case anybody does jump off, just for the next couple days, actually probably through Friday, if anyone does want to go out, and I'm plugging my book now, shameless plug, if anyone does want to go out and get the book, we dropped I put a $1.99 Kindle offer out there. So if you want the book for $2, it's available for you if you want to go get it.
So do it, look for it. Actually, it looks like the link was just shared in our chat. So you can find that link to John's book on Amazon, where you can actually purchase it for $1.99.
I know Dana's got, like, she's got a question. She's like,
Yeah, I know.
She's like, I like, I'm calling people out.
I know, Dana.
Wait, Dana's like, what, me?
Yeah, I know. So
I'm here. Wait, hi.
Dana, how are you?
I'm great. I'm just enjoying this conversation. You guys are awesome with all the advice. I got my page full of notes here, so I'm just enjoying it.
Great.
So Dana, do you want to take a moment and just kind of quickly share? So I've had an opportunity to talk with you briefly one-on-one through LinkedIn. Do you want to, or would you be willing to kind of share your story and where you see your path taking you?
Well, right now I'm in a transition mode of finally jumping into the pool of copywriting, which I've been told that I'm good with words, and to me it was always, okay, isn't everybody good with words? But I was kind of going in the direction of art because I'm also artistic. I was making handmade cards and calligraphy. But then COVID happened and there was no events happening, and I was trying to figure out how do I make a product that nobody really needs right now, and I don't have the machine, the money, and all that. So I think, like Jalen said, this time of this break that we're in, where there's not much activities going on, it really forces you to sit and think, okay, do I just keep taking whatever job that comes just because I need the money? And that's most of us, we do that for a while, but then do I keep doing that, or do I sit down and really figure out, okay, what do I really want to do? I know I'm scared, and I put out there on my LinkedIn, I'm a copywriter, but I still need to learn all the back skills. And I've had some people connect with me from that. And, you have that imposter syndrome going on. And it's like, wait a minute, just like Mendy, it's like we all have this fear because you know what you want to do most of the time, but it's just, how do I do it? And what if I can't do it? Or what if people think I'm not what I say I am? So that's where I'm at right now, but I feel excited about it when I think of copywriting, and because I know I have the skills, I just need the training, the back end basic foundation to really feel more confident to say, okay, this is what I do. So I practice in the mirror and I say, I'm a copywriter, and it feels good rather than I make cards or something. So I'm in this transition mode right now. So any free resource that I find online, I'm clicking on it. I'm taking those courses. I'm watching those webinars. I'm taking notes. And sometimes I feel like, okay, what do I do? How do I apply it? So at least I'm learning, and my mind is thinking a little differently than I'm just gonna take any job and keep doing that, because it is frustrating to, you feel like you're not driving the car and you're just going off. But I don't know if that answered the question, or if did I go off on
No,
a
that's
tangent.
perfect. Yeah, I wanted you to share that because I know that we've had an opportunity to for you to share that story with us or with myself. So, I think it's great. But I know, John, that's something that we talk about. And Whitney had mentioned it too, kind of that in-between time. What are you doing to get you to, your future state and where you want to be and where you see yourself in the future? John, are there other things, I guess, that you could recommend or say, hey, you know what should you be doing during that time to get yourself on the path of where you need to go?
Yeah, well, let me just address Dana's kind of, which I'm glad you shared, because
Feel.
yeah, spiel or whatever else it is. I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about the types of jobs that there are and understanding what type of job that you're doing and sort of why, right? I think at some point, if you're in an experiment phase, you're not quite sure what it is, and definitely don't do copywriting because people say you're good at it. You got to make sure you love it, right? So do something that you love doing. But if you are not sure, and then you're in the experiment mode, and you should do it just to take this. You don't know where it's going to go. And there was already someone that popped up on a chat here and said, hey, we need to connect because right, exactly, there you go. See, but just by just by putting this is what I want out there in the universe, you start getting stuff back. But I would say, Dana, at some point is to think about the long-term play for you, and what does that mean? Copywriting is great if you enjoy it and it's a lot of fun. It's a kind of what point, right? To what end, and what is it supposed to be for? And if you're not sure, that's fine. You don't have to decide it right now. But the fact that you're just thinking forward and you're thinking in advance is really important, because the last thing you want to do is not define what your future looks like. It could be a lifestyle. It could be how much money you want to make. It could be whatever, how much reach and impact you have, no matter what it is. The last thing you want to do is be in a copyright job, enjoying it, right? I didn't say loving it. I said enjoying it. It's a big difference. And then it's 10 years from now and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So that's the only thing I'd share with you, is just understanding what you're doing. And it sounds like, hey, give it a try, because you can always pivot to something completely different, something that's sort of like it. And you never know who you're going to meet, what you're going to discover. You just go do it. At least you're picking something that you have some passion around.
Yes, and I totally agree. I was never the kind of person that just would do something just because everyone tells me that I should do it. Like my dad wants me to be a nurse or business administration, and I was so firm on no, I don't want to do that. And I had to do this internal battle with him all the time, and I was I was always like, if I'm unhappy in something, like it's just always a no first for me. And so that's why I've been going through different jobs. I think college life is like that anyway for us. But the copywriting, like when I think about working with words and being able to string them together to like really bring out a message, like I get excited about it. So I think that's a good sign rather than, what I was doing before. All of my life I've worked in customer service and I love people. I love being able to just make somebody smile and really solve some kind of problem. But, going from restaurant to retail to hotels, it's just hasn't been like, it hasn't felt fully 100%. So I think when I think of now working with words and everyone's kind of moving online and businesses need, people don't have the time to sit and try to think or write. Like two things people don't like doing: speaking in front of people or writing. So if everyone's moving online, and that's an opportunity that I'm seeing, at least for right now, like I'm actually excited about it. So it's not just I guess I'll do it because everyone says I'm good at it. So I think it's a good sign. I mean, if it changes later on, or if I see something I can do with it differently, then obviously I'll manage. But for now, that's what I'm seeing.
So that's
So
perfect. So then that's what we talked about with the Ikigai thing. It sounds like if you found something that you love to do, and again, it sounds like you're in experiment mode, so you should go experiment. But if you find something you love to do, something that you're good at, not, I mean, I would say you should be great at it. Don't just be good, be really good. If you're so there's a need there and people are willing to pay for it, by all means have it. But just be careful about how long you're in that kind of field, or that if you don't really love it. I saw something from, I don't know, do you guys know who Dean Graziosi is?
yes.
Yeah, so he has a book that's come out. He's made millions and millions of dollars with, he started real estate and a bunch of other things. Super successful guy. Um, and he said something the other day, which is really interesting, and it sort of relates to your 10-year resume, and you're not just you, Dana, but everybody. Is he said, imagine yourself, you're at the very, very end, and you're having a conversation with your maker, whoever that is, right? And you're looking at what you did. If you can say that I really maximized my potential. I loved what I did. I lived a good life. Thank you very much. You should stay in that job. Any other answer, you should do something different. I don't know if that was a mic drop moment or if that was a
That was a total
That was
home
really
run. Yeah, I know.
insightful.
like
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
Boom.
but
Hey, I wanted to share, actually, I don't know if you saw in the chat, Jacqueline said that this was for you, Dana. She said that her last job allowed her to experiment in different roles along the path she chose, and she took a lot of pivots along the way. She said it was valuable experience, though, great experience that helped her grow into the leadership position that she eventually wanted to be in. So there's some good advice and great feedback for you too. Hi, Jacqueline.
very good.
um, let's see. Actually, John, I believe Lisa, and then we will get to Lucas as well. I think that they wanted to share their stories with you if you have the time. So, Lisa, I'm going to open it up to you first.
Thank you, Brandon. John, first and foremost, congratulations. I want to say that to you again.
Thank you.
I know I wasn't at the last webinar. I did have to catch it on the recording. And then we met briefly right after that. I wanted to tell you, I haven't gotten a chance to share with you. I actually quit my bank teller job. So that for me was what was it? It started off as the stepping stone job, turning into the stability. And then it just ended up being the wrong one. And this month actually makes it 4 years that I've realized I was in the wrong position. During that time, you know, I changed my major from business management to hospitality management. That's where I'm at Rosen now. And I get to work with great students like Jalen and Lucas. But having that stability job, it just kind of made me feel a little bit secure, turned into a comfort zone. And I said, you know, I wanted to quit. I knew this was my last semester of college. That was actually my plan at the beginning of the year, to quit. And, you know, when all this happened, I said, no, I'm not going to quit. I can't quit. How can I quit a job, a stable job that could turn into a career, maybe not one that I enjoy or love or even, you know, like, but I can't quit knowing that there are people out there who are getting furloughed, who are getting let go of their jobs, and not by choice. And here I am taking a choice to let a job go. But after meeting with you, after sitting down and just thinking about it, I came to the decision and I said, I have to leave this place. I am not feeling fulfilled. I'm not feeling like I'm making a difference in the world. This is definitely not my purpose. No matter what I do, if I stay here, I can't find my purpose. And so Thursday is actually going to be my last day. And I'm telling you, it's a relief to have time to actually invest my energy into something. Thank you, Jacqueline. I see you. Thank you, Dana, to invest my energy into not only myself, but to the things that could be my passion, could be my talent, could be my purpose. I think that's all what we're trying to do. Maybe find our purpose and just give it to the world wholeheartedly. So this whole session, everybody sharing your stories, I just want to say, like, I completely agree. The fear, the unknown, it's all just really scary. But like John said, the fear of not knowing and regret, I think, would just hurt me even more. So I turned in my letter of resignation. Thank you, Lucas. I turned in my letter of resignation and, you know, I told them, listen, I love the company. Thank you for all that you've done for me for the 4 years. You know, I really appreciate it, but it's time that I do something for myself.
Awesome.
And,
Gosh,
yeah,
that is
so.
awesome. You're getting a lot of head nods, a lot of thumbs up, a lot of chats. I mean, that's amazing. That's great.
So yeah, it's great. And this
Yeah.
dialogue
Go
is
ahead, Lisa.
definitely just confirming that what I did was right.
Yeah, I think we were all, Lisa mentioned to us late last week, that she was doing this. And I think Whitney and I both, we cheered her on. And, you know, she said this is what she needed to do. And she's doing it. And so, yeah, Lisa, honestly, I tell Lisa she has great things ahead of her. She's been working hard. You know, Lisa, if you are unaware, she actually is part of the Human Resource Development Association group with Rosen College. And she's been charting her pathway into human resources when she's out of school. So kudos to her.
It's great. Next, what's going to happen is it's going to be a couple sessions from now, and Mindy's going to come on and say, "I did it. I'm following my dream job."
See, I know exactly. So. We're waiting for that, Mindy. I want to. Yeah, you'll come back for a session, or I want to see a post on LinkedIn. So. Let's actually go to Lucas. I know Lucas wanted to share some insight in his story as well. Lucas, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brandon. Hi, John. Thank you so much for all being here. And thank you so much for organizing this tonight. It's my first professional cares workshop, and I love the supportive environment. So I guess I'll just start from fall of 2019 when I began college and studying hospitality management. And I was just really like, my end goal is to be working in a hotel as a GM somewhere, but that changed as I was learning networking with industry professionals. And there was one time that this corporation came in and had a discussion with Rosen students, and it inspired me to look in more of a corporate role that I might want to pursue down the line in like brand management. I actually asked this person who is one of the recruiters here, not recruiters, but someone who had a corporate position, to if I could interview him for one of my projects in my intro class and in my intro hospitality class. So I did that, and I just learned so much about brand management. And I fell in love with it so much. I expect to fall in love with it. And I think just going off of everyone just saying you have an end goal, and just like being adapting in the middle. I think that's just that was kind of one of my moments for me, especially just discovering the hospitality industry and what positions I could have. And I was really hoping to be working in the industry and get my foot in the door this summer, but unfortunately, because of COVID-19, a lot of places were furloughing people and just hiring was hard. So ultimately, what I just did is I think that this year, alongside being a student body senator representing the Rosen College at University of Central Florida, I also decided to help out with my grandmother at her operating her lavender farm, because it's like I'm not doing much this summer, and what I really want to do is give with a purpose and give back to someone who's meant so much to me. And I asked, hey, could I help learn what you do in your business? Could I learn like how you operate and practice my customer service skills, especially being in the hospitality industry? And I came in, and it was the most fulfilling summer I've had in this in this time. And if you think about it, I would just say that during the summer, her business partner was facing health issues. She's been facing multiple myeloma type of cancer for years, and this year it took a turn for the worse. All the treatment stopped working, and she decided to go on hospice. And this is during the time I was up here working, and unfortunately, her business partner passed away during that time. It was also my other grandmother as well, and so it was very hard, but it really taught me, along with the fellow employees, my grandmother, it's just we all bonded together, and just we came to a common goal that we want to carry her legacy down the line after she passed, and just really show resilience during this time. And I just felt like during my time learning entrepreneurship skills I wasn't expecting to learn this summer, I just really learned so much about how to be resilient and to be giving back and fulfilling people with purpose. And that's what I strive to do in anywhere in my life, to really give back and give with a purpose and empower people to be their best selves. And ultimately, so that was one aspect I did in the summer. And I also am now, I have a leadership role now in Senate. I'm a vice chair of the conference registration and travel committee. And for that, we are also in charge of dispersing student funds, like for students to travel or be on virtual conferences, to present research or network. And some of my responsibilities, aside from minute taking, I've been helping overhaul and revising our spending policy on how we fund these students, and also looking at how we're going to overhaul our funding process in the future, because we have gotten some complaints about from the past. So it's just really balancing all this in summer on top of classes, really to move forward in this together, and making sure that students are best served. And I think, going off with like what Lisa's been saying, I think I had to face a very hard decision last week or a couple weeks ago, and that was finding out when POMP meeting dates are happening. And unfortunately, the meeting dates for POMP were just conflicting with my Senate schedule. And in the end, I had to think about long and hard. And as much as I love POMP and how much it has supported me so much, I think what's going to be benefiting POMPers, that we call it, the fellow members of the POMP organization, and just the student body in general at Rosen, is that I continue my involvement in student government right now, especially my leadership role, because it's really important to make sure the students are represented, especially during this time with like getting financial aid, making sure policies that they're being represented properly, and making sure their voices are heard, especially during a global pandemic, and making sure students have equitable resources during that time. And I think this is kind of like where my in-between job, I'm sorry, in-between role, because eventually what I really want to see myself doing is to work on property, and then down the line into a corporate role, managing, leading a team, and also traveling worldwide to different hotels to see how they work and operate, and oversee them as well. So I just think that using all of these experiences, but I think even though it's not directly hospitality related, I can really use some of these skills, like my customer service skills that I did in the store selling product, or also like making product and making financial decisions of how much product we're going to make for the store. And then also more of analytical and decision-making skills in student government, where I'm helping discuss legislation, or discuss with higher administration on how we're going to move forward with university policy, whether it's COVID policy, whether it's going to be funding students and all that. I think it's really important that those are all skills that I learned that I could carry with me in the future. And I don't think I'll be may stop student government during my time in college because I want to pursue other endeavors in the hospitality and tourism industry and work on that, because that's what one of my dreams is. And I just think that definitely working on that and really learning how to like, you know, I guess talking about like our in between and where we are jobs, and just like transitioning those skills to how we can be in future roles. And I think that that's where I am at. But yeah, I just think that again, like throughout this year, I've learned so much, and sometimes I just forget I have so much time, especially being only in my second year in college. You know, I have so much time to be figuring out what I want to be doing, and I can just take a step back and breathe, saying, okay, this might not work out now, but always try again later, and just really being persistent and resilient. I think that's just where I'm at right now. But yeah, thank you.
So look at just a couple things real quick there. One is I love you're in the right place in terms of how you're thinking about it, right? You're experimenting, and that's I mean, I went back to school when I was in my late 20s, got my first internship when I was 30 years old, and look at where I'm at. And so you've got time. I think everybody here would know that you've got your time, right? And I love that you're exploring things that you're really interested in and that kind of thing. Here's the one thing I would just tell you to be cautious of, and that is not to be a generalist in too many things, because then you're an expert in nothing. And so I heard you talk about being you know, a GM, so your customer service. I heard you talk about brand management, which is something completely different than that. I heard you talk about analytics. I heard you talk about leadership, like through government. There are a number of different things there, and so I would just urge you to experiment, but ultimately pick I wouldn't pick one, but I would pick two. And the reason I say that is because that's how you stand out is, for example, if you decide analytics I'm just picking one, right? You decide analytics. That's great. And most people do that. They'll pick that one major, that one skill that they're really good at. But imagine now you competing against yourself, going for a job. And not only are you really good at analytics, but you can translate analytics into how it impacts the customer experience. You have instantly made yourself that much better than everyone else that just does analytics, and you've separated, you know, that. So if you can have two skill sets that are complementary to each other, 1 + 1 = 3 from a value prop perspective, that's good. Just don't be analytics and leadership and revenue management and like whatever else you want to go do. I know let's bring Jalen into that conversation by bringing in his revenue management, but just make sure you pick, you know, one or two things ultimately, but experiment for now.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think like definitely when it comes to internship programs, like I want to pursue a corporate internship in a major hospitality corporation. I think that's something I really want to look into, and then learn where I want to specialize, you know, and really learn, okay, like which corporate department's best for me, and then figure out, okay, this is what I want to do and move forward. And I think definitely also learning more about hotel operations and understanding that aspect as well is just find something I love to do and specialize. It's basically something I did in high school. Like I serve on state student government, and there was a new opportunity to work with school safety, and I was honored enough to be the first student working with the Maryland Center for School Safety, and I really learned to specialize in that field during my time at high school. I loved it so much, and I was able to make such an impact with empowering my mentees to be so much better, or not so much better, but like really building off the foundation from what I started on. I think that's just I think definitely I do carry that over. It's just that, you know, like you said, I just need to make sure I find that time, you know, and the time will eventually come. It's just still I want to make sure I learn everything I can and then specialize in the future. Like I'm thinking start in a hotel, back of house of restaurant, something like that, and then progress to front desk and progress to front office, and then look at doing a career change into corporate. It's just that I want to make sure I have the property experience and then separate myself, or like be a standout, because I understand what I learned in a hotel, and then how can I carry, like in day-to-day operation, how can I carry that into corporate to make beneficial decisions for all the team members that work in a hotel, and that will be impacted from all the corporate decisions that are being made. So I really appreciate your point, John, and I definitely do
make
carry
sure
that.
they're complementary, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's
Right.
great to have property experience if you're going to ultimately go into some kind of corporate management, financial analysis, that kind of thing, because you'll want to know what happens in the front lines to understand what you do in corporate.
Exactly.
But if you're going to manage brands and you're going to be a brand manager, it's not going to matter what you do necessarily at a resort level. You're going to want to understand more about customer acquisition and customer psychologies and motivations and perceptions and all that kind of stuff. You're going to want to do something probably a little bit different than how does a hotel run. Just think about that. So, Brandon, I don't know if we had another question teed up.
Yes, actually, I wanted to see if we can hit two more questions before we wrap up. I don't know if Ryan's internet connection may be a little choppy, but Ryan, are you currently on the line, and would you be willing to just kind of quickly and briefly share your experience with the tenure resume? Yeah, I think we may have lost him. So
he's got a good still of himself, though.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was like, I thought at first he was. I thought he's deep in thought. So, here's a good question. Dave Patchell, who could not be here with us today, he wanted to ask this question. Many of us were able to pour extra amounts of time into our career advancement, being laid off or furloughed earlier this year. What are some strategies that you suggest for maintaining this momentum once we are back in the routine, back into work again, and we have less time to kind of focus on these things?
Well, I mean, it's hard because it's a pretty general question, because if we talk a lot right now about goals and what you want to do and what's your future and all that kind of stuff. If the goal is to go back to your job, then I would say then you use this time to get really good at whatever it is that you're good at, or if there's a gap in whatever it is that you need. You've always wanted to have that time I want to deep dive and learn this part of the job that I've never been able to do, or understand the customer from a different perspective, or really get to know the company from the outside, because as a furloughed person, you are on the outside looking in. Or I'm going to really study the competition. Like if you work for Disney and you're furloughed, but you want to go back to that Disney job, understanding the customer now in a post-COVID world, think how great you're going to be. Really paying attention to what the competition is doing. If you go back to your job and you can do the same job that you're doing, and now you're a whole heck of a lot smarter about what the competition is doing, think about the value that you have. However, if you've ever contemplated a career change, being on furlough is the perfect time to do it, right? This is where you can get certifications and meet with a bunch of other people that are probably on furlough too, and they have more time to give, or whatever else. I think the key is to use the time for what you want to do when you come back, right? It's hard to answer that question because I'd have to talk to the individual person about what they're trying to do or whatever else. I think at the end of the day, we all have the same thing, right? We have time, we have energy, we have resources, right? And the ones that use their time better than the next person, that put a certain amount of energy into whatever they do and use the resources that we all have around us, the ones that do that the best, particularly in a furlough environment, are the ones that are going to come out succeeding on the back end. So right now, there people have a lot of time. They can put a lot of energy into driving resources and getting the tools and skills that they need. So,
right. So, John, we are pretty much out of time. I will tell you honestly, I think this was some amazing dialogue, and I know on the back end we were chatting with each other, and it was great to see so many people just take this opportunity to open up and share their stories, where they're going and where they plan on going, what their goals are as well. before we wrap up, I just wanted to remind everyone, John, and give you an opportunity to promote your book again. So we'll share the link actually in the chat one more time if we can, and I will send it out in an email as well. This offer is good for 1 week, correct? So the whole
This
week.
week, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And it's $1.99, so $1.99 on Amazon. We do encourage you to leave a review as well if you get an opportunity to do so. John, do you have any parting words or anything that you would like to share with the group?
Yeah, I would just say, I'm not going to, this is about you guys. And so I would just say that I don't want you to have done your 10-year resume, and hopefully you got some great advice and information right now, but I don't want you to do like nothing with it. So like, why did I spend all that time and whatever else? So I think there's really 4 things when you think about your 10-year resume right now, or if you're going to do a 10-year resume or whatever else. The first one is to really reflect on your 10-year resume. Really ask yourself the questions of a reflection. If I can take maybe 5 minutes, I'm going to run a little bit over, Brandon,
Sure.
but I think it's
Yeah.
important. But I think if you reflect on your 10-year resume, either as you're creating it or you've already done it, and I think you should look at things like, well, how do I feel about it? How would I feel if I actually do this? Am I inspired by my 10-year resume, or is it a safe 10-year resume, right? Because you should be inspired from it. It should make you want to jump out of your bed and go charge head on to go do those things. Am I being unrealistic, and if not, why? And we talked before about failure, and you imagine doing a 10-year resume that has you reaching this certain point, but you fall short of it. The gap between where you actually fall and what you probably would have done is probably a lot greater than you think it is. So it's probably okay if you don't do it. So I would just look at your 10-year resume and just reflect on it. Now that you've had a time to do it, you probably set it down. You maybe dusted it off for tonight's call or whatever else, but I really reflect on it and ask yourself some hard questions. The second thing is I would stress test your 10-year resume. So I would really put it through the paces. What I mean by that is comparing that to your core values. Is this really who you are and what you want to be? Is this really what you're good at, or what you see yourself doing? And remember, I talked about having your ideal lifestyle. Imagine your day-to-day 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and then ask yourself realistically, does your 10-year resume fit into that lifestyle? So really stress testing that I think is important. And you've got to really ask yourself, do I really want this? Because if you don't really want it, you're not going to go after it. So you have to really stress test the resume. So reflect on it, really stress test it. The other thing, then the third thing is, I would say is, okay, what do you do now? And you know where you are now. Hopefully, in order to do your resume, you've kind of assessed who you are now, not just where you are now, but who you are right now. You've got on paper, or you're going to put on paper, what you're going to be. Now you got to bridge the gap. So who do I have to become? What skills do I need to acquire? Who do I need to have around me? Those kind of things to go. And if you struggle, remember, like I was telling Mindy before, always go to the end and work your way back. And it's hard to do, but think about it this perspective. A coach told me this, and there's a lot of scientific evidence around this, is generally you can break things down into 5 major moves. So think about, if in a 10-year resume, 5 big things that have to happen to bridge that gap. It could be a job, it could be the people that you're working with, it could be a skill that you have, it could be multiple jobs, whatever, but break it down into like 5 shorter increments. And then you don't have to say, okay, in year 6, I'm doing this, in year 7, I'm doing this, in year 8, I'm doing this. You just need to look at it in like almost 2-year increments, and then take the next 2 years and break that down into, okay, what do I have to be and do at the end of this year? Okay, 6 months from now, by next month, what am I going to start tomorrow? So literally breaking it down, and it makes it really easy. And then as part of that third thing about what do you do now is if anybody's familiar with KPIs, key performance indicators, what are those things that you can measure your progress against? Because right now in your resume, it just says title, job, year, whatever else, but there's other KPIs. It could be the amount of money you make. It could be the amount of time that you have. It could be, I don't know what it is, but you got to have things to actually define it and measure it against. The last thing that I would say then, so we talked about reflecting on it, stress testing it, What do you do now? So actually creating a plan. The last thing, and we talked about this at the very start of the conversation, is fear. Is if you're afraid to put it on paper, or you're afraid of the answers that you're getting from reflecting it and stress testing it and doing that stuff, ask yourself about fear. Why are you fearful? How would you overcome that fear? What am I afraid of? What is my limiting belief? Why is it do I think I can't do this? And then someone once told me to don't think about your limiting belief, think about your liberating truths. What is it about you that actually overcomes that fear and overcomes that truth? So basically it's get out of your way and just go do it. So I think those are the four things. I think you stress test it. I would take your 10-year resume. It's fluid. I would look at it. Some people I have seen pin it up on a wall and they look at it every single day. I've seen some people that have said that they look at it every quarter and they kind of assess how they're doing. It's really something. It's a roadmap for you, and it's your decision on how you use that roadmap going forward. I'll tell you, like, people have asked me, well, what about your 10-year resume? My 10-year resume, I did a 10-year resume. I got stuck in my executive job at Disney for a while, and I did a 10-year resume, and I said I was going to be a SVP within the next 10 years, and I did it in 3. Because I had the clarity and I knew exactly what to work on, exactly what to do. And then I redid it. And my 10-year resume, it was one piece of paper, and it had like 4 or 5 words on it, literally right down the middle. And the 4 or 5 words were to not have a resume. And I thought about that because I didn't know exactly what it meant, but I told myself I didn't want to have a resume. And I look at today and being on the bestseller list and my book's coming out and I have my own company. Guess what? I don't need a resume because people are going to give me their resume. I'm not giving them mine. So I hit my goal without knowing exactly what it is. I just knew I didn't want to have a resume anymore, and I'm doing it. So I don't know if that's helpful, inspirational, gives you guys what you need to kind of go take on the world. But that's kind of my parting advice as I ran way over.
John, it was worth it, though, completely worth it. And I'm sure everyone in this room will say it was completely worth it. So we appreciate you running over because you've provided some very valuable insight for us. And again, thank you so much for your time. I, again, will tell you how humbled and how thankful we are to have this platform, but to have people who continue to return and utilize this as a resource. So we thank you so much for that. John, again, thank you so much. Congratulations to you and your book. Again, we are cheering you on, and don't forget, go out and purchase John's book as well. And I do not doubt that we will continue this dialogue. So we'll have another session to talk about how we can continue to stand out too. But in the meantime, thank you all. Be on the lookout for an email that will just talk about some of the things that we've discussed today in today's session. Also the link to John's book, or the Amazon link so that you can purchase John's book, and a few other things that we'll share too for you, and some great insight. In the meantime, thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Bye, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming.